Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 22 playthrough of the Miami Marlins. We're about to kick off the 2023 season, so thanks for joining us. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Love to hear what everyone is thinking. We're at the start of the season. Starts today on Thursday, April 6th, 2023. So I want to take a look at the 26-man roster and see exactly what we're dealing with at this point, to let you know how the end of the off-season and spring training went. Pretty pleased with our pitching staff at this point. You can see our starters are Yu Darvish, Pablo Lopez, Trevor Rogers, Sixto Sanchez, and Jamison Talon. We added Talon in free agency this year. We picked up Darvish in a trade with San Diego last season, and they're still paying a big chunk of his contract this year. So feel pretty good about the front line of our rotation. The bullpen, the big change that we've made is we recently made a small trade to pick up Andrew Miller from the Mets, giving us 3 left-handed arms out of the bullpen in addition to Rogers in the rotation. So a little bit of a better balance between lefties and righties than we've had in recent years that we've been trying to move towards. I think we've got a lot of flexibility with this team. Sandy Alcantara has been a starter for us before. Paul Campbell has been a starter for us before and also has closed for us. And then Max Meyer is a young pitcher that hopefully still has a good future for us, but he's going to be in middle relief this year too. Tony Gonsolin, who we picked up last year, is slotted in as the closer by manager Don Mattingly at this point. So I think we have a lot of flexibility with several people with good stamina if and when we have injuries. So feel pretty good about the rotation and the bullpen. But those of you who have followed the first 2 seasons know that that hasn't really been our problem. Our problem has been our batters, and specifically our offense. So let's take a look at what the team looks like as we begin the 2023 season there. Austin Hedges is back as our starting catcher, and we added Tucker Barnhart this offseason, so probably have as good a defensive catching platoon as we could possibly have with 1 lefty and 1 righty, although I don't think it will be a pure platoon. We'll look at what Mattingly has put together for the lineup since I am only the GM, but I think it will be Hedges on a daily basis and Barnhart filling in for him as needed. But having that left-handed bat potentially off the bench is interesting. Lewin Diaz is back as our first baseman. We had mentioned previously that we thought we might want to upgrade first base, and actually as we kind of looked at his production from last year as a 25-year-old, 96 OPS plus, still has the opportunity to kind of improve his contact, but good contact, gap power, and home run power. Pretty good defensively, and we're kind of comfortable running with him. Obviously, he's a very inexpensive player on a minimum contract right now, and even next year, right now expecting about $1 million for arbitration. So player that we may try to extend. He probably won't be interested in extending with us. Right now he's just looking for a 1-year contract at, a number between what we think the arbitration figure will be in the fall and what he probably wants to get paid. So more to come on that. Jazz Chisholm is back. Had a similar year as a second-year player last year to what he did as a rookie. Good defensively, still hoping for a little more with the bat. He did hit 27 homers for us last year, OPS plus 107. So a solid season, solid defensively, and he's, got some speed, can cause a little disruption on the base paths, and again, very economical at this point in his career. Shortstop, as I mentioned earlier, we had brought on Freddie Galvis as a free agent, and he will be joined eventually by Brandon Crawford, who we put on the injured list with a strained hamstring. But I think Mattingly will probably start Crawford. I think Galvis is probably just as good. So happy to have those two there. Gives us some some flexibility in the event that there are injuries. Bryson Brigman from Jacksonville is going to be on the 26-man roster until Crawford's back. Third baseman Brian Anderson, again, he is starting to get expensive for us. $6.5 million salary this year, and he will be a free agent after this season. So depending on how the season goes for us, he's somebody who we may look to trade and or sign to a long-term contract as the year goes on. But this is our last year of arbitration control for him. And then looking at the outfield, Jesus Sanchez back in right field. Michael Conforto, our big free agent signing, will be in left. And then Monty Harrison, who we've been constantly trying to find someone better than for the last few seasons, is going to be back again as our center fielder. Solid defensive center fielder, decent offensively, had a big slump compared to his great cup of coffee in 2021. Last year was a rough season for him with just a .215 batting average and the 79 OPS plus for the season. But he is still out there for us. And then A.J. Pollock will probably play a little bit against left-handers in the outfield. And then Trey Mancini is a competent hitter who's our final outfielder. So reasonably happy with the way the team looks. Still have close to $10 million to take on contracts if we make some trades or look at anyone who's a free agent, but free agency is pretty picked over at this point. So I think, the money that we have there would be most useful if we want to take some people off of the trade block or track down some other players to trade for in the coming months. But the goal is to get to 500, and the hope is to be a playoff team. Given that we have been able to increase our budget over the last few years, we'll see that we bumped up our scouting budget and our development budgets by $2 million each this year. So hopefully that will start paying some dividends. Our minor league system is very average right now, still 15th of 30th overall. Hopefully some of the players we've drafted over recent years will really start developing better now that we're investing more into the minor league system. And we've also kind of upgraded some of the coaching across our minor league teams. So we will check back in shortly and let you know how the season is going. But we're excited to get 2023 off and running. Welcome back. It's been an eventful first close to half of the season. We're just over 500, 7.5 games out. We had been playing pretty well, and in recent times we've been hit pretty hard by injuries, but just saw something kind of interesting here. You'll remember that in the last off-season, I used some of the profits we had made to buy out our previous scouting director and bring on Mike Dalton, who's legendary in everything. And it was kind of interesting. We just had the international free agents announced. And if you look at what my legendary scout, Mike Dalton, has to say, there's an awful lot of meh among the international free agents. The OOTP Scouting Association looks like there's, potential really good player, couple good solid pros, and some people with potential to be useful major leaguers. So it was just kind of interesting. I've never had a scout before who was legendary in everything, and it's a little depressing to kind of realize that when I've had lesser scouts, perhaps I've been throwing good money after bad in terms of some of the signings that I've done with international free agents as well as players that I've drafted. But glad to have him on board telling me how things are going, but doesn't look like we're going to make a big splash in the international free agents this year. Otherwise, I mentioned that injuries and have started to take a toll on us, and we've been struggling over the last couple of weeks. You can see that Sixto Sanchez, one of our starters at the beginning of the year, is out for the season, and one of our big free agent acquisitions, Jamison Talon, is on the injured list for the second time already this season, out another 2 or 3 weeks, and he's been pretty ineffective with that grotesque 7.69 ERA so far this season. It was definitely a flyer. We knew he hadn't played since 2021 with the Yankees, but clearly that doesn't seem to be working out. And then Tony Gonsolin, who was our closer at the beginning of the year and has actually started a few games for us, pitched really well for us. He's now out for 7 months. So we're holding the rotation and the bullpen together with duct tape right now. We'll start looking to make some additions to the team through hopefully some trades with teams that are out of it. I mentioned we've really been struggling recently to be just one game over 500, and you can see there, we're 2-8 in our last 10, and I think if you extend that out further, it's just as bad a winning percentage over the last 3 weeks or so. So hopefully we can add some pitching to help turn that around. The only other thing to kind of share is that we did make a couple of signings. We bought out some arbitration years for a couple of our players. First is Matt Thase, who's a utility first base and second baseman for us at this point. Kind of a league average type of hitter, but wanted to at least lock him up given that our third baseman is going to be a free agent after this year. That would be Brian Anderson, and he's looking for more than $10 million, so that gives us a little insurance to potentially at least have a body that we can play there. And then the other big thing that we did was Lewin Diaz, our first baseman, has just been on fire this season. You can see 71 games through, 18 homers, 52 ribbies, 128 OPS plus. Been hitting great, and his potential arbitration year numbers at the beginning of this season were about $1 million a year. About a month into the season, it was $2 million this year, $3.5 million the year after that, $5 million for his final year. We just decided to kind of bite the bullet and hope that he really becomes a great player over the next few years. So we bought out his 3 arbitration years for $3.5 million, $4 million, and $4.5 million for the next 3 years. He would not go any longer than that, so unfortunately we weren't able to buy out any free agency years. But hopefully if he continues to improve, we've at least locked him in, and we won't have to be dealing with, $6, $8, $10 million arbitration numbers for him in the coming years. So the plan for July is to do the amateur draft and hopefully add some players through trade with other teams to kind of bolster ourselves as we try to have a 500 record and hopefully get back into the playoff hunt. Well, we're just past the trade deadline, and similar to last year, we're in the playoff hunt and in the hunt to end with a better than 500 record. Hopefully, at the very least, we finish above 500 this year. As you can see, we're in third place right now in the NL East, 4.5 out behind Atlanta and Philadelphia, and we are 4 out for the wild card. So certainly have a difficult 2 months to the end of the season, but we certainly have a chance, which is, you're saying we have a chance, and that's all we can ask for. We did make 3 trades at the trade deadline to try to bolster the team. Found better value in the pitchers, so we added Matthew Boyd, a left-handed starter from Washington. He's pitched twice for us, got shelled the first time out in a better outing, his second appearance with us, but he helped bolster the rotation given all of the injuries we've had with our pitchers this year. The second name we added was the left-handed reliever Brad Hand. Just added him right at the trade deadline yesterday, but he should be a nice addition to our team. You can see the last 3 seasons with St. Louis, he's done very well. And then last but not least, we added Seth Lugo, who has slotted in as our closer. He's already pitched 4 times for us, 3 1/3 innings, 2 saves over that time period. So hoping that The addition of the starter and the two relievers can help kind of stabilize our pitching staff. You'll remember that Gonsolin, Lopez, and Sanchez are all on the disabled list right now. Actually, I think the last time I talked, Talon was on rather than Lopez. But Talon is back, but it's been a pretty rough season for him with a 6.33 ERA. We will see how he and the rest of the team perform over the last 2 months of the season, though, as we try to, at the very least, have a winning record and hopefully sneak into the playoffs. Well, there were some similarities to the end of last season with the end of this season. We once again missed the playoffs. We finished in fourth place, 7 games out of the NL East, and we were 4 games out of the wild card. Positively, though, we did have a winning record. Our goal was to get close to 500, and we finished at 85 and 77. So we've made decent progress over our 3 seasons, from 62 wins to 79 wins to 85 wins. So hopefully that allows us to keep our job, because I believe with the rest of our goals for this season, improving our team on base percentage, we were still the worst that we could be, and we didn't sign Rojas, and our attendance, which is a goal for the end of next year, was actually down. But the key goal was on the field, and we hit that. So hopefully that will enable us to get an extension at the end of this season. Just kind of a recap of how some of the acquisitions we made to attempt to help our playoff push worked out. You'll remember we made several acquisitions, 3 pitchers at the trade deadline, which we thought would help us in the push, and helped us, but not enough to get where we wanted to be. Matthew Boyd, if we can pull Matthew up, there we go. He was 4-2 for us with a 3.53 ERA over 81 innings, so he certainly did a solid job for us. Brad Hand ended up spending some time on the DL, but when he wasn't on the DL, it was really ugly, with a 8.36 ERA over the 14 innings that he pitched. And then Seth Lugo came in and became our closer and did a really fantastic job. 27 games, 18 saves in a 1.65 ERA. You'll remember that Jamison Talon was one of our big acquisitions from last offseason, and not a pretty season. He made a third trip to the disabled list during the end of August into September, and finished 6-8 for the year with a 6.07 ERA. He's been asking us for an extension for the last couple of months. We will not be giving him that. On the batting side, batting was still our weakness. The key addition was Michael Conforto, who we've got for the next 5 years. Had a solid season for us his first time. He did spend a little time on the DL, hit 21 homers for us, OPS 764, OPS plus 113, 2 for a WAR. So not a great season, but still one of the better offensive seasons on our team. Brandon Crawford, another addition, was unhappy. He ended up being the kind of utility infielder and also spent some time on the disabled list. You can see that 169 average. He was only a 1-year contract. Doubtful that he will be back with us next year. Freddie Galvis stepped into the shortstop role for us this year after Miguel Rojas left. Was certainly not Rojas, but a little bit better than a replacement level player. And, we have Galvis under control for the next couple years if we want him. Obviously, he's inexpensive enough that if we can upgrade, he could certainly slide in and be a utility infielder for us. So got some big decisions to make this offseason, as we always do. The most interesting season for us on the offensive side, well, there were really 2 of them that stand out. Jesus Sanchez has developed into a solid offensive player, a full-time player for us this year. 25 homers, 88 ribbies. league average OPS plus, but still, if you look at his batting profile, you could make an argument that he can perhaps get a little bit better in terms of his production over the next couple years. And then Lewin Diaz, I mentioned earlier that we signed him to an extension this year to just buy out his arbitration years. I think that was probably a good idea because he was only going to get more and more expensive on us after this season. 32 homers and 90 ribbies, slugging percentage over 500, OPS approaching 800, OPS plus of 116. A good offensive year for him. So disappointing that we didn't make the playoffs, but we'll find out shortly whether or not we keep our job. Until then, thanks for watching. Would love to hear your comments and suggestions if you have any. And we'll be back soon with another edition of the Miami Marlins on our quest to finally make the playoffs.